Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going on a quest. You could say that. A quest to uncover the story of a woman whose life, was deeply intertwined with one of the most influential figures in history. But, and this is the really interesting part, she's still relatively unknown.
Ooh, I can already tell this is going to be a good one. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Excellent. Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
So we're diving into the life of Ayman. And our main source, it's this incredible YouTube video from the Yaqeen Institute. Have you seen their videos?
Yeah, I have.
They're fantastic storytellers.
It's true. They really bring history to life. It's not just dates and names, which can get boring. They really draw you into the story.
Exactly. And you're going to need that kind of storytelling. Because Ayman's life, anything but ordinary. Just imagine this, okay? Imagine being present for nearly every major moment in the Prophet Muhammad's life. Like from his birth to his final moment. She was there.
Wow, that's quite a life. It really makes you wonder why we don't know more about her.
I know, right? That's what we're here to find out. Okay, so first things first. Let's talk about her name. Ayman. That wasn't her original name, was it?
No, it wasn't. She was born Baraka, but later became known as Ayman. It means mother of Ayman.
Oh, mother of Ayman.
And you know that name change, it's not just a detail. It hints at something deeper about her life and her connection with the Prophet.
Ooh, I love it when the little details unlock a bigger story.
In Islamic culture, motherhood is highly revered. And it's not just biological ties. It's about nurturing, about guidance, about spiritual connection. And as we'll see, Ayman became a mother figure to the Prophet himself. So the name Mother of Ayman, it foreshadows her role in his life.
Okay, now I'm really hooked. Let's trace her journey. The video starts chronologically. And it's amazing how intertwined their lives were, like right from the beginning.
It really is. Ayman was actually purchased as a young girl by the Prophet's father. So she was already part of the household when he was born.
So she was there, literally from day one. And she was even one of the women who nursed the Prophet, right?
Exactly. It speaks to a level of intimacy and trust that, I mean, it's hard to even imagine. And their bond, it only deepened when tragedy struck.
Oh, I know.
When the Prophet was just 6, his mother, Amina, passed away. And Ayman, she was there to console him, providing comfort during a time of, well, unimaginable grief.
It's heartbreaking. But it also says a lot about her character. Even at a young age, she was a source of strength
Yeah.
and resilience.
Absolutely. And that resilience was tested again and again throughout her life. A few years later, the Prophet's grandfather, who had become his guardian, he also passed away. And once again, Ayman was there, this constant presence amidst all this loss and uncertainty.
It's incredible how she remained such a steady figure in his life through so much change. And then things take another turn, don't they?
Yeah.
Because technically, she was inherited by the Prophet.
You're right. That's a detail that often gets overlooked. After his grandfather's death, she became, well, the Prophet's property.
Right.
But instead of keeping her in that role, he chose to free her.
Okay, stop right there. Because that is huge. It would have been normal for him to keep ownership. But he chose to grant her freedom.
Exactly. It shows the Prophet's sense of justice, of compassion, values that would become really central to Islam. And it shows the respect he had for her as a person. But, you know, what's fascinating is her response.
Tell me, what did she do?
She chose to stay. She was free to leave. But she stayed with the Prophet.
Wow. That says so much about their bond. It wasn't just circumstance. It was a choice.
Absolutely. A deeply personal connection. And the Prophet, he acknowledged this bond publicly. When he introduced Ayman to his wife, Khadija, he said, "This is my mother after my mother."
Oh, that's beautiful. He clearly valued her so much.
Yes. And this affection was mutual, even though Ayman eventually married and started a family of her own.
That's right.
Her devotion to the Prophet never wavered.
And the video mentions that Khadija even helped her find a husband. It's really nice to see these two women supporting each other. But even after Ayman married, she said something that I thought was really powerful. She said, "I never left him, and he never left me."
Such a beautiful quote. It really sums up their relationship. A lifelong bond of loyalty, of love, and mutual respect.
And it's against this backdrop that we have another big moment. Ayman's conversion to Islam. She was the second woman to embrace the faith.
Yes, and her conversion wasn't passive. She was actively involved in the Muslim community. She really understood the faith and was dedicated to its message.
Her commitment is really inspiring. And it makes you think about how much she must have seen during those early years of Islam.
It's true. And we're just getting started. There are so many more twists and turns in her journey. moments of both joy and hardship that reveal her strength and the depth of her faith.
Okay, you've definitely got me curious. It sounds like we're about to uncover some amazing stories.
We are. I can't wait to share them.
So you mentioned twists and turns. What happened next in Ayman's life?
Well, after her first husband passed away, the Prophet actually encouraged someone to marry her, Zayd ibn Haritha. He was much younger than her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the Prophet even said about Ayman, she's a woman from paradise.
Wow. That's quite a statement.
Yeah.
Makes you think about what he saw in her to say something like that.
Mhm.
It also kind of challenges our assumptions a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, here's a woman who was older, formerly enslaved, a widow, and the Prophet's advocating for her remarriage.
It really shows his compassion and how he wanted to break down those social barriers.
Right.
He saw her inherent worth, her dignity. It didn't matter what her social standing was or her age.
Right.
And they had a son, right?
They did.
Yeah, his name was Usama bin Zayd. And he actually went on to become a really important figure, a companion of the Prophet, even led armies.
Wow.
It shows how close these early Muslim families were.
It really does. It's like we're getting this glimpse into the heart of this community. And Ayman's right there in the middle of it.
Exactly. And then, this community, they faced one of their greatest challenges, the Hijra, the migration from Mecca to Medina.
Right.
And you mentioned a miracle.
Yes. What happened?
Well, the journey itself, it was incredibly difficult, especially for someone Ayman's age, the desert, the heat. And water was scarce. At one point, Ayman was so thirsty. I mean, she really feared for her life.
It must have been such a test of faith to be
Right.
pushed to your limit physically, but to still hold on to that belief in a better future.
Absolutely. But then something amazing happened.
Oh, really?
Ayman said that a bucket of water, cold water, just descended from the sky out of thin air.
Whoa, are you serious? That's like something out of a movie, this divine intervention.
I know. And for Ayman, it was a sign of God's mercy. It was a reward for her faith.
Wow. Did that experience stay with her?
It's interesting. She actually said she never felt that kind of thirst again. It's like that miraculous event. It kind of strengthened her physically and spiritually for all the challenges ahead.
And there were many, right? The early Muslims, I mean, they faced so much persecution, battles, uncertainty. What was Ayman's role during those times?
She was right there on the front lines, witnessed every battle. But she wasn't just watching. She took care of the wounded, offered support, encouragement. There's even a story about her picking up a sword to defend the Prophet when others ran away in fear.
Wow. That's bravery and dedication.
Yeah.
It shows how much she believed in the Prophet's message.
Exactly. And the Prophet, he saw all of this. He said about her, this is the entirety of what's left of my family, recognizing her loyalty, their deep bond.
But it wasn't just spiritual, it was familial as well.
Yeah.
Forged through these shared hardships, this unwavering faith, and the sense of purpose.
Right. And even amidst the struggles, there are all these stories about Ayman and how she can make the Prophet laugh.
See, those are the details I love, the human moments. Tell me about those.
Well, there was one thing. Ayman, she struggled with the Arabic language, and sometimes she would mix things up.
Oh, I can imagine.
And it led to some funny misunderstandings.
I bet.
Like there's this famous story about how Ayman, she accidentally told the Prophet, "May peace not be upon you."
Oh, no. Instead of the traditional greeting?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. She must have been so embarrassed.
You would think. But the Prophet, he just laughed and gently corrected her. He even started simplifying greetings for her. He clearly loved these little moments of joy, even amidst difficulty.
It just shows you the Prophet was human, too. He had a sense of humor, patience, and this real affection for the people around him.
Yeah, and there are other stories about them playfully arguing about food or her asking for camel rides.
I love that. It's just this warm picture of their relationship.
It really highlights, the importance of laughter, of joy, even when things are hard. It's a reminder that even the most serious figures in history, they were human too, with a full range of emotions.
It makes you wonder how she reacted when he passed away. After a lifetime of this closeness, it must have been devastating.
It was. When she heard the news, she withdrew. She was overcome with grief. But it's her words to Abu Bakr and Umar, the Prophet's close companions, that really show us how deeply she understood the meaning of his loss.
This is the part I've been waiting for. What does she say? I've heard it's powerful.
She said, "I'm crying because the revelation has ceased to come from the heavens."
Wow, that is powerful. It wasn't just about losing a friend
Mm.
or a leader. It was about the end of an era. It was the end of this direct connection to the divine.
It's true. It was a huge shift. The prophet, he was the conduit for revelation. And now he is gone. And her words, they show that she got it. She understood the essence of his mission. It wasn't just about earthly matters. It was about connecting humanity to the divine.
And with his passing, that link was broken. I can't imagine the sense of loss, the uncertainty for the early Muslims.
Absolutely. But even facing that loss, Ayman, her faith, it never wavered. She continued living her life, dedicated to Islam, embodying its principles, service, resilience, unwavering belief.
You know, it's amazing to think about how she navigated such a monumental moment in history. The prophet passing away, I mean, it must have felt like losing a part of herself, but she kept going.
It really does say a lot about her, doesn't it? You know, she wasn't just defined by her relationship with the prophet. She had this incredible inner strength, this faith that helped her get through so much.
And it's wild to think, Ayman, she lived to be over 100 years old.
Yeah.
That's incredible in and of itself.
I know. Think about the changes she saw in those 100 years, from those early days of Islam in Mecca to, it spread across Arabia. She was there for all of it. She saw the early Muslim community go through, well, everything, internal struggles, new leaders, and then, eventually becoming this powerful force.
Wow. To have lived through such a transformative time, she must have had so much wisdom, so much to share.
Absolutely. Think about it. She lived through slavery, freedom, war, peace, the birth of a new religion, and, losing so many loved ones. Her life, it shows us how strong humans can be, how adaptable we are.
It really does. It makes you wonder, what stories did she tell? What did she teach the younger generations?
Right. It's like a whole library of knowledge just went with her when she passed. But we do know how she was remembered, honored by the community.
Oh, that's right. The video mentions her burial place. It was special, wasn't it?
Ayman was buried in al-Baqi. That's the graveyard in Medina. And get this, she was buried very close to the prophet's grave.
Wow, that's significant. It shows the respect she had even after the prophet was gone.
Exactly. Really solidifies her legacy, shows how important she was in those early days of Islam.
You know what strikes me? Ayman's story, it really changes how we think about influence. I mean, she wasn't a leader, not a scholar, but her life, it had this huge impact.
It did. And it reminds us that impact doesn't always come from, big titles. Sometimes it's the quiet things, the service, the love, the faith that really change the world.
It's like those people behind the scenes, keeping things running, offering support, but never asking for credit.
Right. And Ayman's life, it shows us that those contributions, they matter. They're essential to history.
I'm also really struck by how the prophet treated her. He always honored her, respected her, even though she was a black woman formerly enslaved, in a society where those things, they mattered a lot.
It's true. And back then, those factors, they could really determine your place in society. But the prophet, he went beyond those norms. He didn't just talk about equality. He lived it. His actions, especially with Ayman, they showed that true faith, it's about recognizing the worth of everyone.
And by honoring her, he was sending a message to the whole community, challenging those old prejudices, showing them the real spirit of Islam.
Exactly. And that message, it's still relevant. Ayman's story, it's an inspiration, a reminder that even small acts of kindness, a strong faith, a commitment to justice, those things matter.
Okay. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ayman's life, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think her story tells us to look closer. Dig deeper. Don't just look at the surface. There's so many hidden gems in history. And it reminds us that there are so many untold stories out there. Stories of, ordinary people who did extraordinary things and changed the world.
It really makes you wonder how many other Aymans are out there waiting for us to discover them, waiting to teach us something new.
That's the thing, right? So I hope our listeners, they keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep looking for those stories, the ones that can really change how we see history, humanity, even ourselves.
Beautifully said. Ayman's story reminds us that history isn't just about, big events. It's about people, their connections, their struggles, their victories. And sometimes those seemingly ordinary lives, they're the ones that really teach us about the human spirit.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Yeah, what a journey. It feels like we just scratched the surface of her life. But for now, let's leave our listeners with a sense of awe and maybe, a new appreciation for those hidden figures, the ones who really shaped our world.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.